And welcome inside to a very special edition of Clutch Up. I am your host, Donnie Travis. Today, number one, we're going to get this out the way. This is a Kobe slash Mamba mentality episode, as it is August 24th, 824. And if you know Kobe, you know those were his two iconic numbers that he wore during his tenure as a basketball player. Unfortunately, he was tragically lost and taken from us 2 years ago, but his legacy, much like everyone else's legacy that I've said previously, it lives on forever. And the first thing I want to talk about is number one, he would have been 44 yesterday. So a very happy and belated birthday to him as well from the Clutch Up. And sticking with the NBA for our first topic, the number one is Kevin Durant is staying in Brooklyn after a really a while month or so of uncertainty following a June 30th trade request from Kevin Durant. The two-time NBA champion and two-time Finals MVP has decided to stay in Brooklyn following a meeting that he had with the Nets GM, head coach Steve Nash, as well as a team governor Joe Tsai, who all have said that the parties are moving forward with their partnership. And there was a lot of uncertainty because Kevin Durant is not the only notable player that the Brooklyn Nets have obtained in the past year or a few years or so. They also have Kyrie Irving, who has had his own run in, not necessarily with the team, but in general, he only played 29 games last season after he chose not to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. And in certain areas, you weren't able to play. Like if he were to travel with the team to play in Toronto, he would not be able to play due to the COVID-19 vaccine restrictions over there. And honestly, he couldn't even play at home for some time with the New York vaccine mandate. So for him to be able to come back and play, hopefully a full season with Kevin Durant, those are the two key factors and two key points that the Brooklyn Nets wanted to keep. They lost a third piece in James Harden last season for a trade, but they did get a point guard back in Ben Simmons. No telling what to expect from him, however. So this season is definitely going to be one to look out for the Brooklyn Nets. There's been a lot of buzz, a lot of hype around them, and a lot of people thought that they were the favorites to win it all these past couple years, but only last season did they make a first round exit without winning a single game, getting swept by the Boston Celtics. So that is a very bitter pill to swallow for them, but they are coming back now stronger than ever. Kevin Durant, he is staying with the team after he just signed a 4-year, $198 million extension last season, and that deal is going to kick in this season. So a lot of things to look out for this upcoming NBA season. And sticking with basketball, last night in the WNBA, the Chicago Sky defeated the New York Liberty by a score of 90-72. Chicago moves on to play in the semifinals, and they will play the winner of the Connecticut Sun and Dallas Wings game tonight. That will be game 3 in a winner take all. That will be streamed on ESPN at 9 p.m. Eastern, and they are fighting for a semifinal spot, as I said. On the other side of the bracket, you have the Seattle Storm playing the Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals on that side of the bracket. And the semifinals for the WNBA will begin on Sunday, August 28th. So be sure to check ESPN and your local listings for those games coming up. Also, moving forward, going to be talking a little bit of baseball, talk about the Youngins in the Little League World Series. There's actually a Little League World Series that I have playing in my background right now between the team representing Mexico and the team representing the Chinese Taipei. I am almost certain I said that wrong, so forgive me. But those are the top two teams currently in the Little League World Series. And the series has been going on. It's actually scheduled to end around August 28th. But this has been going on for the last week or so in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Teams from all over the place representing Chinese, Taipei, Mexico. You have various teams representing the United States because it's broken up into two different brackets. You have an international bracket as well as you have a United States bracket. So for those two brackets will actually meet up at one point. You will have the champion from the international side and the champion from the United States side meeting up for, I believe it is sometime in August 28th. Yes, August 28th is when that is scheduled to kick off. But right now they're doing a double elimination tournament to see who can hang with who. But to I cannot even begin to list off the names of notable and iconic baseball players that have played in the Little League World Series. One name that actually comes to mind is Cody Bellinger, who plays for the Los Angeles Dodgers. But just to see youngins on the field and playing baseball, I'll tell you right now, baseball, if you have a child 13 or younger, definitely get them into Little League World Series, because as a Little League participant myself some years ago, it is a wonderful experience for kids of all ages to just get out, have fun, and enjoy. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. But moving right along, we're going to look in on the NFL as the preseason is still underway. Getting to the nitty gritty of teams starting to make their final roster cuts before they get to their final 53-man roster. A lot of teams have been going back and forth with who they want to keep, whether it be draft picks that they had or people that they signed in the offseason that weren't drafted. So a lot of teams are trying to figure out who's for real and who's for show, as well as people still trying to make their name for themselves. And one thing that a lot of NFL coaches will actually tell you is that even though you may not have a roster spot with us, that does not mean that you don't have a roster spot somewhere else in the NFL. So a lot of teams are still taking these opportunities and taking these reps very seriously. So if you see somebody that you might like playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they might not necessarily be playing for the Buccaneers this upcoming season, but they might be playing for the Texans or some team that actually liked what they were putting on film and want them on their side. So preseason is a chance for everybody to get better, everybody to get exposure. Just to give you a quick rundown of some scores that may be interesting for this preseason, even though I've told you this before and I will say this again, the preseason does not matter. 4-0 to 0-16, my Detroit Lions win, and I cannot begin to explain my dissatisfaction with that. But the Detroit Lions, they beat the Indianapolis Colts this past week by a score of 27-26. The Washington Commanders lost to the Kansas City Chiefs by a score of 24-14. And the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Arizona Cardinals by a score of 24-17. This was the second week of preseason. They only do 3 weeks of preseason games before they head into the regular season, where they will play a 17-game season. So that will be an interesting to look out for. And I will say this now, the NFL season kicks off September 8th. So be sure to mark your calendars and call your favorite teams now. If you haven't figured out my favorite team, there's no point in me bringing it back up. But moving right along, staying with football, I'm going to mention this now. The SWAC MEAC kickoff game again is going to be held August 27th in Atlanta, Georgia, between Howard University and Alabama State University. I can say this right now, Afro News will be in the building for that game, so be sure to look out for us and our social media. Be sure to be following us, because we will be posting amazing content as we are there. And speaking personally, I'm excited for this game. These are two very interesting teams to look out for in the season. And Atlanta is also the home and hub for the Celebration Bowl, which I've stated before is looked at as the Black College National Championship. So this is going to be a very interesting game to watch. And who knows, we might see one of these teams in the Celebration Bowl come December. And one thing I also want to add to on this day, August 24th in 1989, a lifetime ban from baseball was handed down to Pete Rose for his role in gambling. Now, it is reported at the time that he was known to have a gambling problem, and while he has admitted to gambling on other sports, he denies betting anything on baseball games or the baseball games that he was playing, because not only was he a player, but he was also a player manager for some time. So his role, while still being part of baseball, was kind of looked at very interestingly. And like I said, he accepted it at the time, but he still maintained his innocence. And He hasn't bet on baseball during that time. It was other sports, but not baseball. So, but leave that as it may, he still is serving this lifetime ban from baseball. And it is also worth noting that Pete Rose still holds the MLB record for most career hits in a single career at 4,256. The next closest person to that record is a young man by the name of Ty Cobb, who stands at 4,189. The closest active player in the MLB right now for this. Hello, everybody. The closest active player right now would be Albert Pujols, and he is in his 22nd season, and he's only at 3,358. So this is a record that will honestly probably stand for a very long time because 4,000, you don't just wake up one season and say, okay, I'm going for 4,000 hits. This is a record that took time and took years and decades to go into. So there's no telling when or if we might ever see this record broken. But it's also interesting because the person that holds this record is not and probably will never be in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. So that is a very interesting fact on this day. And another on this day we have is this was also the day that the French Open decided to ban Serena Williams' Black Panther Wakanda inspired catsuit. The president for French tennis, Bernard Guy said in part in a statement discussing the ban that you have to respect the game and the place. Now, Serena Williams actually wore this catsuit, number one, for her health, because she did have a history of blood clots, and this was right after she gave birth to her daughter, and she developed a blood clot after birth. And it was also, she said, to inspire mothers everywhere. And I really am not too sure what the actual issue was because a lot of people do have these mini fashion statements when it comes to world attention and world events such as something like the French Open or the playoffs or world championships and things like that. So for the way it was banned and everything, it received a lot of backlash at the time. Serena herself has not really taken up too much of an issue with it, but nonetheless, it is still very interesting to note that Serena is so good that they had to ban certain apparel that she could wear on the court. As we've noted before, that she is retiring at the end of the final U.S. Open, which is going to be ending next month in September. So be sure to look out for Serena's matches as they come up because, like I said, we probably are not going to see her again after this time. And that is all I have for this rendition of Clutch Up. I do have one more announcement, though. Next week, we'll be having our first guest on Clutch Up's first guest. I don't want to give away too much. I don't want to spoil the surprise for anybody, but I will tell you one thing for this guest, that she is number one and first in her field at what she's doing right now. And she is definitely making a difference and an impact somewhere for somebody. So, like I said, that's all you're getting out of me. If you're welcome to guess who you think it may be, and who knows, if you guess who it may be, I might have something for you. You never know. We have certain giveaways that we are able to do and are able to set up. So if you guess it right, be sure to reach out. And that's all I have today. But until next time, I've been your host, Donnie Travis. Clutch up.